Insecure scored 8 Emmy nominations this year and finally ascended into the lofty Best Comedy Series category for the very first time. I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby. I'm here with Emmy-winning editor Nena Erb, ACE. Nena, first of all, congratulations on your first Emmy nomination for Insecure, which you share with your colleague Linnea Hubbard. Talk us through the morning of.
It was a little surreal. I actually forgot that the nominations were being announced. So I was just, getting up, making breakfast, going about my day, and my assistant, Linnea Hubbard, texted me and was like, "Oh, I'm feeling a little bit better, hearing the nominations." I was like, "Oh, cool. Did Issa get nominated?" She's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "In the show, too." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." And she goes, "And so did we." She was so calm about it. I was like, "What?" I seriously was like, what, huh? And I had to go online and double check. I was like, "Oh, okay, wow." Yeah, wasn't expecting it, so it was such a nice surprise. Especially during COVID.
Right. Not only were you nominated, but the show did very well. Like, it's always, Issa's always been a contender. She was nominated for the first half, maybe in the second year. And it kind of fell off a little, unfortunately. But this year it's come roaring back, I think, because season 4 was just like next level amazing. What are your thoughts on why the show's really broken out this year?
I'm not really sure. I feel like I think the scripts always get better and better each season. And I feel like, I've always loved the show. My friends have always loved the show. And anybody I've introduced to the show for the first time, they've always loved it. And I feel like we had the benefit of a lockdown and where, this season dropped in the middle of it. And, people were just hungry for content. And I think they found a show, and I'm so glad they liked it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think with the with everyone quarantining or staying home, certain shows have really kind of come to the fore where people have just thought, "I'm going to give this a try." I certainly did that. I rediscovered the show whilst staying home with the kids, and obviously didn't watch it with the kids, but that's a whole other story. I want to talk about your role on the show and what you contribute to make the show special. Particularly this, the show's tone shifts from irreverent to heartfelt. Maybe within a scene, but generally speaking, that's what it does. It follows the highs and the lows of this contemporary African-American woman in Los Angeles, played by Issa Rae. And I'm wondering, is editing a different proposition when it comes to the tonal differences between comedy as opposed to drama?
Somewhat. I think being an editor, I think you have to be a little more subjective and objective sometimes in picking performances to make sure that, the comedic moments are really funny and they're popping and coming through. And also to make sure that, the dramatic moments are also coming through just as powerfully, and eliciting the emotion that you want to elicit. So I think a lot of it will depend on pacing, and the performances that you choose, and just kind of like just how you, I guess, toe the line of, balance it out.
Yeah. See, I think a lot of people, lay people who aren't really part of the industry, may not completely understand the daily challenges that the editor has towards the end of the production. A lot of, everything's in the can, so to speak, and you've got a lot of footage there that you have to use. And sometimes I hear from other editors that sometimes you don't have enough. Sometimes maybe some certain coverage isn't done properly. And I'm wondering, particularly on this show, are there any specific challenges to getting those moments right? Because they do play very emotionally and they're also very funny. And I always wonder, like, that's got to be challenging to get right.
Honestly, I just go with my gut. If it's making me laugh, I make note of it. And, and then of course, like, the performances are always so good. Like, the cast is great. They've been together for so long and they know how to play off of one another. So, sometimes it's an embarrassment of riches, but I just go with my gut. Like, the one that makes me laugh the hardest is probably the one I'm going to use. In the particular episode that's nominated, Kerry Washington directed it, and she got such incredible performances. And I think it's because, I'm making assumptions, but I feel like it's because she's an actor and she's coming to the project from a different direction, you know, and I feel like the cast trust her, and there's just so many gems. And I don't get emotional a lot when I'm watching dailies, but the very ending, you know, when Molly and Issa part their ways, I was looking at the dailies and I got emotional, and I was like, this never happens. Like, what's happening? And of course, the one that got me the most is the one that's in the edit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're going to touch on that actually. We should do a deep dive into Low Key Trying. That's the name of the episode that you edited and submitted as your episode at the Emmys. Directed by Kerry Washington, you know, she fits perfectly into the look and feel of the show. It doesn't stand out as something unusual. Like, she really made it work beautifully as a director. Why did you pick that episode? Before we start to go into some specific scenes, did you just love it more than the other ones you've done this season?
I did. I mean, I love everything I, cut the season. But for some reason, this particular one, I don't know what it was, but there was just something about it when I was working on it. I just fell in love with it. And it could be a combination of the performances or just the symbolism that she kind of infused through every single scene. I picked up on it, and I don't know that was intended, but I picked up on the symbolism of twos that she had in setting up certain shots, like, in the therapy scene in the beginning between Molly and Dr. Rhonda. There's shots of her with an empty chair. And it's like she's going to couples therapy to talk about her and Issa's relationship, but Issa's not there. So it's like, those little symbolic things that Carrie infused through the entire episode. I enjoyed looking for it and making sure that I carried it out. And I even, continued the thread through our transitions. And so I just loved it. So.
Yeah, I loved it too. Obviously, a lot of the season's about this breakdown in this really strong relationship between these two best friends. It's quite heartbreaking. It is like watching a breakup, not a romantic one, obviously, but still so valid and important. Let's go through some particular scenes. I'll talk about the ones that really affected me. Maybe you could kind of talk us through the editing of them. The opening montage is really effective because it depicts Issa and Lawrence's rekindled relationship. They're making love on the couch. They're watching TV. They're talking. It was really kind of mundane, everyday activity, but it was edited to this beautiful soundtrack, and it was very effective. What were your thoughts on the opening?
Gosh, there were some beautiful, beautiful moments that were captured, and I wanted to make sure that it felt like it was kind of a glimpse into several days of their relationship. It was more like, they were kind of dating and kind of doing, normal stuff, and wanted to kind of jump back and forth because, this is a rekindling of their romance. And I wanted there to be some familiarity, but also, kind of like rediscovering each other as well. So we played with jumping around a little bit even, so that it's more like your memory, how it's not always linear. But yeah, and one thing I did that we don't normally do is flop shots or slow things down. But there was one shot of Issa leaning over to kiss Lawrence that I did that with, and just slowing it down, just like not even 5%. It was like very, very minute. But then you see Lawrence's hand go up her side up on the sweater, and it was so sensual. Like, Carrie loved it. I loved it. I was like, it's not what we do, but it works, right? And it stayed.
Because it's the perfect opening, I think, to the episode, because it feels like Issa's in a really good place, but it is so superficial, because then we eventually get to the climactic brunch scene, which is very awkward. And it's, testament to Yvonne and Issa's acting. But Issa in particular gets there, she orders mimosas, the waitress suggests that she has alcohol, and she's like, yes, absolutely. It's a very superficial and kind of awkward conversation, and there's a lot of cutting between the two of them. And I'm wondering if you could point to a particular cut that you did to kind of really reinforce that awkwardness.
It was actually throughout. My very first, how I work is I put together the bones of the scene and with the performances I like, and then I'll go through and do another pass for subtext. And so for this one, it was a matter of like really like kind of manipulating it so that it's super, super awkward. Like you can cut the awkwardness or the slight tension with a knife, and it's down to like, the one take where she sits down and she kind of wipes all the napkins off the table after she's ripped them up, to kind of hide that she's been there for a while and she's nervous about this. And, all the way down to like when she's asking her about her cousin, how's your cousin doing or nephew doing? And asking about the vacation and Molly kind of covering a little bit. A lot of that was really, the pacing was, I experimented with it a lot to see like what would be the most uncomfortable. If you were sitting there and you're having this, conversation with your best friend or who was your best friend, how would this make you feel? And I just wanted it just to be like agonizing, uncomfortable, and awkward. And so a lot of the pacing was kind of, adjusted to make sure that came through.
Yeah, it did. And I was kind of watching it through fingers, some of that. As you mentioned earlier, when Issa walks out of Andrew's apartment, Molly goes after her. The two women share some very uncomfortable truths about how they're growing apart. Molly snaps back that they just don't fit anymore. A heartbroken Issa has tears in her eyes. She gets into her lift and she leaves. Heartbreaking. I was like, is this it? Are we done with this relationship? It was very effective, very compelling. Talk us through your highlight of making that one work.
Well, there were so many different ways that I could have cut that scene. We could have gone really traditional in terms of like just literally just staying on each other for every single word. But sometimes I wanted to make sure that we saw them face to face, and it was great to start, kind of with Issa ordering her lift. And then as Molly comes out, the focus is now on Molly and she kind of is blurred out. And, until Molly starts asking what's going on, and they kind of get right into it. There were so many different ways for that to go too, because, Molly's intention is like, she was initially, I wanted her to be very oblivious to her part in this whole situation. But I think, her starting to realize that she might have something to do with it, and maybe that's why they just don't fit anymore. I thought that was a little more effective. And so it was just a matter of, again, picking the takes that just, and making sure that nothing else messed it up.
Yeah. It is incredibly effective scene actually. And yeah, and I mean, again, a lot of it has to do with the performances that you're getting to work with on the screen. And I can only imagine as an editor, you get material sometimes which is just subpar, and then you've got to try to work your magic, because I hear that a lot as well. I don't know how you do it. It's like a science. Speaking of the tone of the show, what the show represents, particularly in this day and age with what we're dealing with in the world today, I'm just wondering what it means to you as an Asian American woman working on a show that spotlights stories of women of color, that is really fresh, confident, sexy, and intelligent. What does it mean to you?
Oh gosh, it means the world for so many different reasons. I love the series because, it really highlights South LA, which is where, my family and I kind of settled when we first immigrated to the States. But what I also love about it is hearing and seeing, Issa and Molly's relationship and all the, seeing them navigate their life, career, loves, everything. It's so relatable because I think as women, we've all been there. And then as a woman of color, I don't get to see myself represented a lot, but for some reason through them, I mean, I know I'm not African-American, but it's just understanding that they are also coming at it from, a woman of color's point of view that has actually been so meaningful to me, just to be able to help tell that story.
Yeah, and I mean, it's great that we get to see more of that on TV, and we're seeing a little bit more representation of Asians on American TV these days, which is great. Hopefully we'll get to see more. But do you think that we have a long way to go? We talk about diversity a lot, but I just think there's probably a long way to go until we're actually seeing all different people, shapes, sizes, colors, sexual orientations, genders. Like, I mean, it's kind of an endless list, isn't it?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I feel like we do have a long way to go because it's hard to put into words, but I feel like when a network has one show that's, you know, an Asian show or a Latinx show or a Black show, like they feel like that's enough.
Yeah.
But one, yeah, exactly. Like, you know, that one show isn't going to fit all of the, you know, everybody. So it's okay if there's two, which is, you know, I think that's why Netflix and HBO are so incredible is that, you know, they don't just stop at one. You know, if the story is interesting, they're going to do more. I mean, another HBO show called I May Destroy You. I think that is also just equally as amazing as Insecure. Both of those shows kind of give everybody a little glimpse into the life that they wouldn't normally be exposed to.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, I think we need more of that. And I hope that we'll see more of that.
That's a great example because you could probably try to categorize both shows in the same category. They're about women of color, their daily lives, their contemporary, but they're just completely different, and that just goes to show that the subjective human experience is made up of a whole different variety of people. And I think that's the best thing about Insecure, and that's what I've learned most from watching it. Finally, before we let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that you have already won an Emmy. So this is not your first go at the rodeo. You won for Project Greenlight in 2016. Take us back to that big win and your most fondest memory of winning that one.
Oh gosh, it was so crazy. It was my first big award. You know, being on the red carpet, I felt like a little kid in a candy store. I was like, oh my God, look at that person. Oh, look at that person. You know, slightly starstruck, but not fan geeking out, not stalkerish.
Yeah.
You know, but I was just really, it was like nothing I've ever experienced. Just being in the room with everybody who's worked you over the years and then realizing that, oh my gosh, I'm sitting with one of their peers blew me away. It blew me away. And, you know, the series has been a favorite of mine. So I was really excited to be working on it when they called me. And, you know, just to be there with my co-editors, it was surreal. And I was really thrilled for everybody.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we won't see you on any red carpets this year. It'll be a virtual ceremony, but we wish you well. Good luck at the Emmys for your nomination for Insecure, and hopefully we'll get to catch up with you for season 5 in next year or whenever it drops.
Yeah, thank you so much. That'd be great.
Everybody go to Gold Derby, by the way. Click subscribe, watch all of our great contender chats, just like this one with Nena.